So I think we are live. It says it's setting it up. So yeah, and you're
There.
always live before you realize that you're live, right?
That's
At least
right.
that's what I notice when
Yeah.
I'm watching people's lives, that they're
Then you
still
get
kind of
that
like,
preamble.
yeah.
It's always like, okay, I think it's working.
Yes. All right, it's working. So, greetings, everyone watching this live and on the replay. Please let us know if you're watching, hashtag replay, and let us know your takeaways because I'm super excited today. I have Orest Zwozdesky with me, and I have the privilege of interviewing him around our upcoming retreat. So, um, Orest has been just a beautiful soul in my life. Had a big impact just in the short time we've known each other. I guess it's kind of several years that at least I've been following your work,
Mm.
everything that you've been offering, including like sweat lodges and breath work and ancestral healing. And now I've also attended Orest's Evolutionary Edge program a couple times because it's that good. Orest
Mm.
is really tapped in. So he's one of those unique souls that I've really experienced as like I can feel him. I can feel where he comes from. So I know that Orest has gone through his own sacred shift and has crossed an evolutionary threshold that most people I know have not. And that is one of the reasons why, that really was the title that spoke most to us for the retreat that we have coming up at the end of September. So it's called The Sacred Shift, Crossing the Evolutionary Threshold. And yeah, Orest really does have that hollow bone. He's very available. The prayers and the what do you call them, incantations, or that you when you call in the ancestors and when you chant. And one of the first times that I heard you just singing and chanting, my hair all stood up and I could
Mm.
feel the ancestors just coming in and populating and bringing this energy into our circle. And it actually totally blew me away. So thank
Mm.
you for your yes, because I was really inspired to I've been inspired to do some work with you for a very long time. And when this
Mm.
retreat came up, your name just kept coming up, that's who you need to ask. That's who you need to ask. That's what people are needing right now. So welcome and thank you so much for being here with me today and for saying yes to co-facilitating the sacred shift with me.
No, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here and to be able to co-facilitate this Sacred Shift weekend that's going to be coming up. The dates, is it the 26th of September start?
25th,
25th.
20, yeah, the evening of the 25th. So it's the Thursday until the Sunday. So I think it's 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th.
Mm.
So like 3.5 day retreat.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be amazing and out in Strathcona County at the Hero's Journey Retreat Center.
Mm.
And so, Oris, the first thing I would love for you to just share with everyone, because my group doesn't necessarily know you on the level that I do and that I'd like them to. So I'd
Mm.
love for you to just share a little bit about Orest and who are you and your sacred shift, your crossing this evolutionary threshold, which you absolutely have done, because I can feel that you're operating really in the new paradigm that
Mm.
is way more love led, way more trusting, way more intuitive, where you are available for those divine downloads. I hear your downloads all the time, and it always speaks to a different place in me. So tell me how did this happen? How did you get
Um,
so plugged in?
First of all, you're too kind. Thank you for all that. Um, you know what's interesting is that I just got back last week from a trip to the Yukon, and that's kind of where my more consciously aware portion of the journey started happening, I would say, 27 years ago. But I was up fasting in the mountains in a place on a mountain called Nares Mountain, which is about 45 minutes southeast of Whitehorse, up the lake, right by a friend of mine, my friend and mentor and elder and guides, traditional campground there with his family, their hunting and fishing grounds. They run peacemaking workshops up there now, but we go up there and we fast. So I've been up on that mountain. I just figured this all out while I was up there this past time. Um, I I've been fasting. I've fasted like 16 times in the mountains and 13 specifically up there. And so that was the 13th journey up the mountain. And so it's really fascinating. The experience of it, the elevation, like it's both literal. I'm climbing almost halfway up the mountain, but the place in consciousness that I'm able to elevate to as a result of going into that area, and a complete surrender, because that is in fact grizzly bear country, and I saw the bears down the mountain and stuff. And so that's a part of the process of surrendering, right? Because it's like, okay, creator, well, if I'm supposed to go out via grizzly bear attack here on this fast, then that's a thing. That's what it is. Like I'm not going to stop it with my little tarp that I have that's covering, where I'm sleeping, right? And in fact, I did get a visitation from a bear up there again this year. And I know it was a bear, not because I was peeking out and trying to look around, but because I could hear when they show up on a site, if you're in their territory, they'll like pound on the ground. And so I heard this couple pounds on the ground, and it was just like, well, first of all, I heard him coming out of the bush, breaking, branches and this and that, and uh, came and started pounding on the ground, and I just said, you know what, Creator, your will, not mine. And I said, I'm going to go to sleep, and I just closed my eyes and went to sleep, and it's like,
Wow. Well done.
so yeah, well done. So
That's
so
next
that's
level
that's
surrender to for sure.
that's the experience of things. And so one of the big things that really came through me this year, sitting up there, and the grandeur of it all, like it's just so incredibly beautiful, um, was a whisper of a voice that I heard, and it said something along the lines of deeper and deeper uh, presence inside of unity. Deeper and deeper presence inside of unity, which to me speaks to this whole crossing of the threshold, because there's ways that we can stop ourselves, distract ourselves, go down certain rabbit holes, and create the illusion of different beliefs and different things that are going on. And so it was so interesting, because in this elevated space, it's almost like a little tendril of energy shot out, and my mind wanted to wander over here, but I was able to have the presence to say, no, 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 and pull that back in, so that I'm like right here. I'm right here with it, right? And so um, that was interesting, because the first time I went fasting in that area, that wasn't my experience, right? I was so filled with like um, thinking and overanalyzing and worry and fear and concern for my safety, and all of the things that I needed to allow myself to surrender to, because I was just filled up with all kinds of thoughts and ideas about what this was all about. And oh my God, this is grizzly bear country and all that stuff. And so it's fascinating, because there was a threshold that I needed to cross, and to save a long story short, in a moment when I thought there was a grizzly bear outside my tent, I froze. I don't know how long I froze for. And at some point inside my mind, I could hear a voice in there that said, okay, Orest, breathe. And I started breathing again. And then my curiosity kicked in. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not clear what's out there, but if it's a grizzly bear, there's no way this wall tent is stopping him from coming in. And in that moment, I thought to myself, if I'm supposed to go out by way of grizzly bear attack, then today's a good day to die,
Whoa.
and surrendered. And then my curiosity kicked in. And then I tiptoe over to the rip in the front of the tent, and I looked out, and I saw a rabbit.
Wow.
They often joke up there about the grizzly mice, because they're surrounded by water on three sides of the camp, and sounds get amplified by the water, right?
Mm.
So a mouse walking across the ground, they, say that it amplifies that you might think it's a grizzly bear shaking the earth, right? And it was the same thing with this rabbit. And I just laughed after. And it was a week later that I realized the symbolism and the metaphor that was presenting itself to me was, you know what? I do this in my life. The smallest little thing shows up in my life at that time, and I blow it into the scariest monster with my fear, so much so that I'm crippled by my own fear and I cannot move. And so it gave me this representation. Like I said, a week later, I realized, wow, what a powerful teaching. That was like one of the first teachings that I was given, in that manner, right? And it was strong and it stuck with me my whole life after that. And so that was my first evolutionary shift crossing the threshold, right? I did become a different person after that experience. And so this is a part of the experiences that have been unfolding in my life ever since that time. And that was in like 2001. So um it's just been continual moments of tuning in and really coming to a deeper understanding of who I am and what I'm here to do, what I choose to do as my purpose. And these tests come up and these challenges come up, and it's like, am I going to fail and fall to the fear, or am I going to surrender and say, you know what? Today's a good day to die, man. We can move forward with this stuff, right? Because literally I know I'm not going to die, right? But at this point, it's like the fear shows up, and I'm able to summon my courage and step into what I know is the right thing for me to step into, because I've chosen now in my life that I'm here to serve people, and that I'm here to serve the gathering of community and the gathering of people in the world, um, uh, to really co-create something different in our world, something that's going to serve all of us in a better way, right?
Yes, a world that works for everyone with no one
Yeah,
left out. That's what one of my mentors used to say, that that was his mission, a world that worked for everyone with no one left out.
a hundred
That
percent.
always really landed for me and resonated. So, yeah, you've definitely been on your own hero's journey,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that saying. Like it, I remember the first time I heard that today's a good day to die.
Mm-hmm.
That actually became almost like my mission, right? To make any day a good day to die by living and loving fully now,
Yes.
so that when it comes your time, you can die with no regret. You can die on the exhale, a life well lived. So yeah, that really speaks to me. And in fact, I expect at the retreat, that is a theme for a lot of people, is this, that there are parts of us that are wanting to die, that are needing to die. There's a whole paradigm that's really trying to die,
Mm-hmm.
yet we're clinging to it because it's familiar and it's what we know and it's comfortable, even though it's laden with suffering and separation consciousness. And so I really do see that as a theme for this retreat. and
Yep.
and I've often led, the Zen master that I studied with in Trilotherapy has a lesson called Die Before You Die. And so it's like a whole Tibetan die before you die experience, so that we can embrace death, because I think that's so important. And like you said, next level surrender. Are we
Yep.
willing to die to ourselves and our old identities and all the BS, all the belief systems, right? That are trying to die because they've been limiting us for so long. And yeah, so I love that you spoke to that, and that you've confronted that in your own death and your own mortality. And that really is, to me, next level surrender, and really speaks to this new paradigm that we're operating in, that is, where we need to get to, is greater alignment through next level surrender, next level trust.
Mm-hmm.
It's really testing, like, do we have faith? Do we trust in what we can't see, and
Yep.
trust that we are held, that something is moving through us and kind of running the show, and can we surrender to that? So
100%. You know, there's a saying out there I've heard in the world before, and it was, you know, everything that you desire, everything that you want is on the other side of your fear, which is true. And for me, the way that I look at that is that life and everything that I want is on the other side of my surrender.
I like that better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because that, like you alluded to, those new, you know, timelines, if you want to call it that, or those new visions, or those new creations that are calling us forward, that stuff that really is going to call us forward and give us that energy that we want, and that zest for life, and that passion, and that creativity, and that creative expression, all that stuff that's calling to us is on the other side of our surrender.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there is parts of us that need to die, and not just for ourselves, right? There's parts of us that need to die in order for us to be the best version of ourselves, for our families, for our communities, for the world collectively, right?
Mm. For
And
future
so
generations,
for
right?
future generations, 100%. So
Yeah.
we're being called forward for a reason. And there is a surrender that's required for us to let go of the stuff that needs to die in order for us to allow those new things that want to be born through us in our experience to emerge.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that that reframe, that it's, on the other side of surrender.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we're always going to have fear, and we're not even meant to push through the fear. Like they say, feel the fear and do it anyway. And to me, that's two steps.
Yep.
So it's, actually acknowledging it, feeling it. You're not meant to just run it over and push through it, but just sit with it for a bit
Hmm.
and then make the choice to, to surrender,
That's right.
knowing that it's really, we need to follow our fear in a lot of ways, right? That that's our next level of evolution. That's the threshold. You're always going to, when you come up against that threshold, you're always going to come up against some fear, or I just call it nervous sighted energy or fear excitement, because
Yeah.
there's a
Fierce.
part of us, our heart knows. Our heart is excited, like, yes, you're getting there. You're so close. You're going to break through. And so it shows up as fear. But what if fear is just excitement without the breath?
Mm.
And like you said, when you froze and then you actually made the conscious choice to breathe,
Hmm.
then you got curious.
Yep.
So to me, that's kind of what this retreat is you're making a conscious choice to breathe, to actually take that time, that sacred time for yourself, to center yourself and remember who you are, align with your highest path, and get into that space and the presence and the energy and the support and nature that has all the answers. Like it's already there, but we just have so much going on in our day-to-day lives. So I think it's so important to design these kinds of weekends with people that we resonate with. And
Yep. Yeah. To step away from our ordinary lives,
yeah,
so-called ordinary lives.
ordinary. Yeah,
Um,
there
yeah.
are no ordinary lives. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's interesting too is that I heard I knew this in a different way, but I had it given back to me yesterday from my business coach Danielle, and she said the resistance that comes up inside of us, normally that's the stuff that people can try and avoid. We want to try to push that away because we don't want to feel that resistance, because that's the stuff that makes us really uncomfortable, right? And she said, you know, you got to recognize that the resistance is actually our system signaling that we're in the process of alchemizing the stuff that's standing in the way, all the limitations, the barriers, the blocks. We're resisting. When we come up against the resistance, we're actually in the process of alchemizing that resistance. We're in the process of alchemizing the limitations, the blocks, the beliefs, the stuff. And on the other side of that resistance and our surrender is the life that we're choosing, the life that's being chosen, the life that we're being called towards, not just the life, but the lifestyles, right? And so,
Mhm.
yeah, the resistance is the sign that the alchemy is taking place. And much like that flower that seedling that's trying to push its way through the earth, uh, if we actually don't sit with the resistance for a minute and we distract ourselves, we skip the process of alchemy that is going on. We short change it, or what's the word for it? Yeah, we basically short change the process,
Yeah.
and uh, and then we stay stuck in the places where we don't want to be stuck in.
Yeah. We'll just keep spinning in the old, old
Yep,
familiar territory and until it becomes too painful, right?
yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. So during this retreat, we're going to be leading people through some breath work, some trilotherapy, ancestral healing, sacred ceremony. I would love for you to speak a little bit about the importance of ancestral healing because I know that that's been coming up for a lot of people that they're like, geez, I've done so much alchemizing of my stuff, and it feels like we're carrying stuff from generations back, and
100%.
that there really is a call to connect more with the gifts of our ancestors as well as do the work
Hmm.
that's being asked for. So can you speak to ancestral healing and how that really is a path toward greater freedom?
As you say that, the thing that's arising right now in this moment is that, as an example, in my family, on my dad's side of the family, and I realized after taking a family constellation training how many things track back, especially European ancestry, because on my dad's side, I'm Ukrainian, hence Orest Zwozdesky is my name. But on my mom's side, uh, I'm Korean French, and my mom grew up in northern Saskatchewan in the bush, right? Dad was a hunter, fisher, trapper. Like that was they were on the land, picking medicines and berries and all this stuff. And it's so interesting because on the European side, so many things track back to the world wars, major traumatic events, right? That triggered certain cycles of things that arrived inside of families. And so one of those things that arrived inside of my family on the Ukrainian side was alcoholism. And I know 100% it tracks back to the wars, right? Alcoholism and domestic violence and abuse inside the family. And so I remember my dad struggled with alcohol addiction throughout his whole life. And that actually was what um, caused his death at the end of it all at an early age. And so, in terms of ancestral healing, it's like my dad's carrying this alcoholism and this abuse kind of patterning. And so, not because he's a mean guy or whatever, but he's passing that stuff along to me, or he was passing it along to me, right? And and of course, as a kid growing up watching all this and experiencing the abuse and all the stuff, I'm like, I'm never going to do that, right? I'll never be like my dad. That's what all good addicts say, right? I'm never going to be like that parent, right? I'll never do that. And
What year is
so
this? Persist.
at an early age, by age 12, I'm already heavily experimenting with alcohol, right? And I'm already in the neighborhood being a bully and beating kids up and being violent. And so I didn't, I tell people in some of the work that I do in some of the training workshops, it's like, when you grow up in an abusive environment, you know what you actually really learn how to do? You learn how to be abusive towards yourself and others. And so it's no surprise that people end up that way. So I start going down this road, and I tell people now it's like my life is so different. I can't even imagine every week, at least once and possibly two and up to three times in a week, back in the day of drinking every day, I used to be in fights with people. People would be like punching me in the face every week. And I'm like, I can't even imagine that now, right? It's just so many lifetimes ago, it seems, inside this life, right? But at some point in my early 20s, when I was in really, really down and out, drugs and alcohol every day, like hardcore, um, at some point when I started having an awakening, I realized, you know what? This life that I'm living right here, this is not my life. This is my dad's shitty life, not mine. I don't want to live like this, right? And then after I had that awareness, things just shifted. And then I found my way into sobriety. I'm happy to say 20 over 27 years ago now. Um, I've been sober for that long, and my life started unfolding. And then I met an elder and a couple elders and mentors, and started attending ceremonies and started fasting and started doing all these things. And that to me is ancestral healing. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, my kid, I didn't have any kids as it turns out. But my nephews have never seen me intoxicated. And
Right.
my sweetie's kids, they're growing up in an environment, they'll never see me intoxicated. Like that's not a thing, right? And she doesn't use alcohol or drugs either. So that, we're modeling something different inside of that. And even like patterns of abuse or domestic violence, like they're never going to see um me being abusive to their mom. That's not a thing, right? And so
Mhm.
we have good open communication and really heart connected relationship and stuff. And as it were, relationships have been probably one of the most challenging areas of my life because of the level of um, intimacy and communication and vulnerability that for me is required in terms of being in a relationship with somebody, right? And so that's been an ongoing process throughout my whole life. So even before, and of course, it's so funny because, being a real man, like I would have never before said that I had, vulnerabilities or that I had sensitivities. I had needs that were going unmet. I didn't even know that speak. I didn't know that language. But before I even knew what intimacy was, I understood afterwards that I've always been a very sensitive person. And always felt this need to have something deeper in a relationship. I didn't even know that what that depth was intimacy, but I know what it is now. But that's what I really was craving inside, even as a younger guy in relationship. It was intimacy, right? And so, um, being able to do that healing work for myself has allowed me now to experience the most incredible relationship with my partner and with friends and family and relationships with the kids. My sweetie's kids just continue to evolve and grow and new people that I meet and beautiful people like yourself as an example, right? And so relationships that are founded on trust and truth and intimacy and vulnerability and beauty and inspiration and all those wonderful things. I could have never experienced all that before because I hadn't done the work to be able to the self-growth and the self-love, right? Like uh
Absolutely.
I'm now in a beautifully loving relationship as a result of all that. And so one of the really powerful things around ancestral healing that grabs me, and so I gave you that example of, just changing the patterning and the conditioning in my own family lineage just around alcohol and violence. Um, I talk about it and it seems like it's like no biggie, but at the time going through all the stuff, it was really a biggie, right? It was humongous, monumental, right? Um, One of the things that was fascinating that I was told around ancestral stuff, and I fully believe it to be true, is when we do that work, what we're actually doing inside of ourselves because of trauma and things that are in our system, it's like parts of ourselves are frozen.
Mm. Yeah.
And so um, when we're able to go into that stuff and recognize that, what, this has ancestral connection to it. This is a pattern and a thing that's in my family's lineage. Not to judge, just that here it is, and it showed up in my parents' behavior, and it impacted me this way, and I had this trauma, and so there's these frozen parts of myself, emotional energy frozen inside of my system. Imprint, right? They call it imprinting. And so when I'm able to go in there and liberate the energy inside of that imprint, I become more whole and more available. And the way this guy queued this thing up that really made sense to me, it's like you're expanding the amount of space that's available in your field, meaning you're more grounded, you're more anchored, and there's more space available for others to engage with you. And so when people come towards me and they just feel this, or they'll come towards you and they'll be like, I don't know why, I just feel like I can trust you. I feel like I can just spill open my heart towards you in a way that I wouldn't be able with others. It's because through that work, you've created more space and cultivated more space available in your energy system for that person to recognize that this is a safe place to land. They can feel the groundedness. And conversely, in the world, things that are not true, they can't anchor into our system because it's like fake news. It doesn't have a place to land because it's not truth.
There's no truth to connect. Yeah.
Nothing to connect to. It's just baloney, kind of, right?
Yeah, we recognize truth. It's like a cellular memory, right?
100% we do. Just like we recognize when there's somebody there that we can trust. And so that's one of the things that becomes available inside of our energy, right? Even in my own evolutionary edge workshop, this is a part of the stuff I'm expanding into, is the pieces around what becomes available inside of your energy when you connect with a certain person, because that's different in our connection. It's different in the connection I have with my sweetheart. It's different in the connection that I have with other friends. And so that's where the magic lives, right?
Yeah.
It's in
Yeah.
that connection with others and the possibilities that become available because you're who you are and I'm who I am. And so together we're creating, even the way that this came together with the workshop and the way that you were signaled and were given this impression, like get a hold of Orest. He's the
Yeah.
guy that's going to help me with this thing. And then I'm available when you get a hold and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so then we had this conversation and you shared with some of the things you've already been doing. And even our approach is really fascinating to me because trying to create a poster, I created this poster that later realized like this is a very masculine looking poster. And you created this really beautiful feminine looking poster. And so we're coming together in this masculine, feminine kind of a bridging way. And, essentially coming to the same space. But we've created even the title, like the title came out of you created this beautifully feminine thing, and I created this really masculine title. And then we sort of bridged it together. And hence, we have the sacred shift crossing the threshold, right? It's like it is really
Mm.
beautiful the way it's come together.
It really is. Yeah. And it really speaks to, trilotherapy that I studied with the Zen Buddhist master. And I'll be sharing some different lessons, probably Die Before You Die, a little bit more on the karmic imprint so we can really identify what some of those patterns are and that BS, those belief systems that, like you said,
Hmm.
it's not, this isn't me. This isn't even my life that I'm living. So many people come to that realization, and as devastating as it is, it's like it's such a turning point, and it is a threshold to really start to you know come back to ourselves and
Hmm.
bring all of those frozen parts back home and start to feel and heal in a safe space. And that is what we're creating here, this beautiful space to get intimate with all the parts of yourself, really get to know yourself so that you can hold space and be with any part of another, because they say that you can't really hold space or meet another to a level that you've never met yourself.
Hmm.
And so we're going to be really, just sitting and meeting all of those parts. And trilotherapy is all about the masculine and the feminine within.
Hmm.
So bridging the gap between our head and our heart, where, they want completely different things. And so usually they're working against each other. One, our heart has the foot on the gas and the head has the foot on the brake. Like, and then we
Hmm.
end up in this spin cycle and feeling very, very stuck. And so it's like it's not making either one of them the bad guy. They're not no one's the bad guy here. And that was a huge realization for me, because I used to make my head the bad guy, because
Yeah.
my first breakthrough, that was like a 3-year full on breakdown on all levels. I blamed my head,
Hmm.
right? That it was my head's fault. And so then I became so heart centered that even my business, was living from heart center, but the center is very key, right? So it's not just from this emotional living from emotion or from the chaos of an immature heart, but it's like it's growing up that heart and growing up that head into the divine masculine and feminine,
Hmm.
and listening to them, and then bridging the gap, getting them working for each other instead of against each other.
That's right.
And then ultimately there's a they quiet, there's a stillness that births the center, this awareness and this presence, which is the inner parent. And so yeah, according to trilotherapy, we have our two inner children, and usually they're operating from a very immature space,
Hmm.
based upon our karmic imprints, and those the ancestral stuff that might be stuck in the parts that are frozen, and no fault of our own. But once we become aware of it, then we can make a decision, a new decision. And that's exactly what I heard you saying, that there was that pivotal point where you're just like, this isn't even my life that I'm living.
Yep.
And then you made the decision. And I really do think that success is a decision away.
100%. Yeah.
Those those decisions, like when you have that insight, it's huge. Everything changes. Everything opens up. There is like space for something new available. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about the way that this is all coming together so so divinely, so magically, and I'm not surprised.
Mhm.
um, it'll be it'll be such a beautiful, beautiful container and filled with magic and connection.
I can already feel the hum of the magic, like it's already being created right now, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and some sacred ceremony and ritual. So I have some cacao from Guatemala, from the
Mm.
Guatemalan retreat. So yeah, I'm planning a beautiful cacao ceremony one night
Hmm.
that'll be incredibly heart opening.
Nice.
Yeah.
One of the things you said in terms of, those things coming together and then these new possibilities that emerge and the new opening as a result of like the liberation of this energy, when the floodgates open up and the new things start to pour in, I get really excited as a result of these openings after what I actually I call them instead of just like shifts, it's almost like relation shifts, right? We have
Oh,
all these incredible relationships that occur in everybody's presence and the power of that collective container because you and I could do some individual work with one another or we could one-on-one with somebody else or we could like have one person come before us and we both kind of do what we do or whatever, but when we gather as a collective it creates this broader field of energy that amplifies and makes it even stronger and more things available for us to like have the relationships that are going to create those openings as we move forward. And anytime I've ever done something that creates an opening like that, um, it always blows me away what shows up. Like, because something always new opportunities and new relationships and new people and new chances to um, express myself creatively. Like these things just show up, and it always blows my mind, right?
yeah, we are so so supported and so held. If people only knew like that those one little shift and there's a whole new trajectory that opens up
Hmm.
this whole new path and I love how quick it is now, like there's that quickening happening
Super quick.
where I mean if you're not aligned you're going to know it, if
Hmm.
you're almost aligned you're going to know it. You can't even like you can't get away with not aligned anymore. Your body will tell you like there yeah there's some pretty big shifts relationships that are happening right now
Hmm.
and it's beautiful and it's challenging because we're not used to how quickly that karma is showing up immediately. When we're not aligned or when we are aligned, like boom, and everything happens so quickly. Because
Hmm.
I think you've spoken about the Schumann resonance. Did you want to share a little bit about that before?
Yeah, I think part of the pieces of things that we bring to people's awareness or that I like to bring to people's awareness, and some people write it off as just phooey or whatever, but um, energy is energy and vibration and frequency and sound and all of it, right? So one of the things that we're experiencing nowadays that's like a new phenomenon, it's something that is always that's been there. They started, who started speaking to this in 1999 was Greg Braden
Yeah.
was talking about the Schumann resonance frequency of the Earth, which is consistently vibrating prior to that, over the last 50 years. They started tracking it at that time, and it always was vibrating at 7.8 hertz, which means almost 8 hertz, right? So essentially, the planet's vibration was measured at 8 hertz, which translates to that means for every second of time that we perceive the planet vibrates 8 times. And that was a consistent measurement. They attached the radio broadcasting signal to that frequency. And so Greg Braden started to bring to people's awareness in 1999 when things really started kicking up in terms of the speed at which consciousness was moving and shifting everything. Um, that they started to track that the Schumann resonance was spiking up to 13 hertz. And even that was like monumental. And right now, nowadays, we are we're spiking up into the area of 70s sometimes. Like consistently the Schumann resonance, especially since this past spring equinox, we've been just bombarded with unbelievable solar activity, which is affecting the vibration of the planet, which, whether you believe it or not, I'll tell you this, our nervous system believes it.
Oh, yes.
Because
Oh,
when the
yes.
planet is jumping up to 50 and 60 and 70 hertz, which means it's pulsing 60 and 70 times a second, our nervous system feels the overwhelm and it shows up as stress. It shows up as anxiety. It shows up as overwhelm. It shows up as anger and frustration. And it shows up with all, because essentially our system is vibrating all the heavy emotion inside of it that needs to come up and out in order for us to be able to truly become, masterful within ourselves. But what I think we're tracking towards is becoming conscious co-creators of reality. And
Yeah.
so things
Yeah.
do happen quickly, and our emotional energy is the energy that's used in terms of manifesting and creating things in the world. So the Schumann resonance is vibrating at these unbelievably high levels and it spikes. And so it's shifting at a cellular level, the stuff inside of us, and our nervous system is tracking all of it.
Mhm.
So no wonder people look out in the world and they see chaos happening. And it's easy to point a finger and judge it's this or it's that or it's that. But it's like, just know that, like racism as an example, racism was always a thing, but it was fairly hidden. Now racism's out there all the time in your face. You can't deny it. And so when it's in our face like that, it's now time for us to be able to shift something so that we can resolve that energy and racism is no longer a thing. And we have the capabilities because we can shift timelines now, and that's a whole other conversation. But we can shift timelines now to a timeline where racism's a thing of the past. Like it's not a thing, it's not the way that we operate any longer. And so there's a lot of things that are availing themselves to us now like that super fast so that we can resolve challenges that would have been, across generations. I would have done the work and passed that on to my kids, and they would have passed that on to their kids, and we've got to do that work. We can shift timelines now and do the work ourselves in this generation, right? And so that's a lot of things, right?
Empowering. Yeah.
So yeah, the Schumann resonance, the vibration, the connection to the sun, all the things that are going on, it's all there for us to be able to transform and up level. And so if we take the opportunity, right? Or we can get caught up in the muckety muck and look for all the ways that we can distract ourselves, or like, oh my God, I gotta get away, I've got to get to my next vacation, or I've got to get to my
Yeah.
next, whatever, right? And it's like, sure, but
Yeah.
after you're done, you're going to come right back into that next moment and all the stuff's going to be there, right, waiting for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if you're ready to lead the change that you wish to see, and if this is speaking to you, then please do reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone who's considering this retreat. And yeah, let's be the change we wish to see. And
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and really, help that anxiety and all that stuff that's coming up, all everything, it's coming up to leave. It's coming up to be integrated as wisdom. And so more and more we need to take those sacred pauses and practice those tools and come back to this presence where we can just learn how to trust and surrender on the next level.
Hmm.
So this really is an opportunity to connect with that next level of surrender, that next level of trust, and
100%.
to lead the change. Really, let's let's energize what we wish to see, this new world led by love and unity consciousness.
Well, and these are the people that are coming across my radar and my work, and I know it's happening for you as well. You look at people that you were working with even 2, 3, 4 years ago. They're out there in the world now leading the change by being somebody who's a sought after speaker, a sought after healer, a sought after leader in the movement of global change and transformation in their own healing modalities. And it's like, it's insane, right? It's insane in a good way. It's not insane in a bad way. It's really not insane. It's just it's an incredible, miraculous, and magical uh, alchemy, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
Anything
you
you
are
want to leave
watching,
people with?
no, I just, you just, as you were speaking, I was just feeling into it. And I'm like, if you are watching this video, whether you watch it for 30 seconds or a minute, what my invitation is for you to do is to feel inside yourself. Don't even worry so much about what we're speaking about. Feel inside yourself what's moving and what's alive and what's being drawn or called, because it's in your feelings that you're going to recognize you're feeling called towards something. If something resonates or something vibrates in alignment for you, feel into it and you'll already know. Don't let your head override your decision. Oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough support. I don't have enough all the stuff. If you feel called, just trust, because the next the stuff, the lifestyle, the stuff that you are seeking to create in the world is on the other side of your ability to surrender for the next level. And that's really what I think this is all about. It's creating a sacred space and container for people to come surrender and release the stuff, and they'll be guided in, beautiful, mystical, and magical ways, and to tune into their higher guidance and to be that hollow bone for the creator's light, to be able to allow things to flow into their life and to get back into the flow and release all the stuff. Get back in the flow and release all the stuff that makes them say no, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's cross that threshold together and align with the highest, greatest good for everyone.
Beautiful indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So hope to see you there. I'll put the link in the chat below for with all the details and registration. And please feel free to private message either of us too if you want to have a conversation.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks for watching. Much
Thanks, Jerry.
love. Thanks, Orest.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure.